This is an iHeart podcast.
The biggest thing is the filibuster. We have to get the country going. We will pass legislation at levels you've never seen before, and it'll be impossible to beat us. By the way, if they do, they're going to do it anyway, and they are going to immediately do the filibuster. And when they do the filibuster, they're going to pack the court. They want at least five justices. Now I hear it's up to 5. I actually heard up to 7 and up to 9, okay? And they will do it the first day, maybe the week. Maybe they'll slow it down. And I have friends over there that are Democrats, I'm close to a lot of people. They're going to make D.C. a state, and they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. So now they pick up 2 states. They pick up 4 senators, okay? You think you have problems? They're going to do all of the things. They're going to pick up electoral votes. It's going to be a very, very bad situation. And it's done. It's done. As soon as they attain power.
You're listening to the 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson.
Good Thursday morning. It is so nice to be with you live from Israel right now, and I have got a lot that I want to share with you on the 47 Morning Update. We are going to get back to politics as normal, I can promise you, but I was able to have an incredible day, a heavy and hard and sad day, visiting the site of the music festival, meeting with survivors, going to the kibbutz that were attacked by Hamas, and the children that were murdered, talking to their family members, including victims as young as 9 months old that were killed for sport. I was able to go to a military base that was overrun right at the border with Gaza, and the girls that were killed and raped for sport, all because they were Jewish. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Patriot Mobile. Every so often, something happens that reminds us just how fragile our freedoms are. We can't afford to take our rights for granted. We must draw a line in the sand. And our friends at Patriot Mobile have been doing just that for more than 12 years. The truth is, there is only one provider that boldly stands in the gap for Americans who believe freedom is worth fighting for. And that company is Patriot Mobile. Not only are they leading the red economy, they're also outpacing the competition in technology. Patriot Mobile is one of the only carriers offering premium access to all 3 major U.S. networks, giving you nationwide coverage and service that you can count on day after day. They also offer unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet backup, and so much more. And switching has never been easier. You can activate in minutes on your phone from your home or your office, and you keep your same number you've got now, keep your same phone, or upgrade to a new one. And this is where the magic happens. Every month, about 5% of your bill is given back to conservative causes at no extra cost to you that stand up for our First and our Second Amendment rights, the rights of unborn children, and our wounded warriors, and those that have fought for our country and wear a badge. So take a stand today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Ben47 or call 972-PATRIOT. And if you use the promo code Ben47, you're going to get a free month of service. That's patriotmobile.com/Ben47 or 972-PATRIOT and make the switch today. I'm going to tell you those stories today. It's the 47 Morning Update, and it starts from Israel right now.
Story number 1.
I want to just take a moment to give you a recap of what I have witnessed in the last 24 hours as I have been in Israel. And I can tell you that not only is Israel an incredible nation, but I would encourage all of you to do a pilgrimage and to witness what life is like in Israel. I was blessed to be able to do some incredibly hard things over the last 24 hours. And this is not normally what this show sounds like, but I'm so thankful that I have the opportunity to be, for many of you, your eyes here on the ground. I've been able to travel to the north, to the border with Syria and Lebanon. I've been able to see where Hezbollah attacks from. I've been able to tour the wreckage in the neighborhoods that were hit. I've been able to sit with the victims and tell their stories to you. I also have gone to the complete opposite side, to the west. I've been able to go and see the kibbutz that were attacked, where families were slaughtered, including seeing the home where those 9-month-old little children that were taken and killed by Hamas happened. I was able to meet with the victims and go to the site of the horrific attacks at the music festival, where friends gathered just to dance, and they were brutally murdered and taken hostage and raped by the radicals of Hamas. I went to the playgrounds where children were bombed, met with the families where children were killed playing soccer, and also met on the military base that was overrun at the border with the West Bank, where girls were raped and then shot and executed who served in the Israeli army. What I have witnessed is pure evil. What I have walked through in the homes is pure evil that came from a group of terrorists who are soulless, and their only objective was to kill Jews. I want to start by going to the tour of the kibbutz, because it was the hardest place I think I've ever been, the hardest thing I've ever witnessed. To go into what is a neighborhood that would remind you of your neighborhood or the neighborhood where you grew up as a kid, maybe. It was a genuine community. A community of families, by the way, many of them that were related to one another, where grandparents would live in one home, where grandkids and their children live in another home, where aunts and uncles may be down the street, where cousins played. I mean, when I'm talking about community, I'm talking about a tight-knit community where they worked together. And as I met with the victims who were there, who toured and showed me their homes, told me how they survived and how their family members, many of them, were killed. There was one constant theme, and that was a theme that these people came and they didn't care who they killed. They just wanted to say, I killed a Jew. I sat in front of the house where those 9-month-old children were taken. You may have seen that video that went viral of a mother clinging to these two children, these two newborns, young children, one of them, 9 months old, and hearing the story of how they were taken and how the father was taken as well. He came out to fight. He actually talked to his wife, and he said, are we fighting or are we going to give up? And she said, we fight. In other words, are we going to try to survive by not fighting, or are we going to try to survive by fighting? And he went out of the house, and he had a handgun, which was no match for the literally at one point hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fighters that came across the border from Gaza. And he was taken by the terrorists, and many others were slaughtered there. Many of the children were shot and killed, and the families were shot and killed in front of the door, their bomb shelter, their safe room in their homes. One of the things that was interesting about these safe rooms, and every house had a safe room because you're so close to the border and there's so many bombings that happen, is that most of the people did not have a lock on the inside of their safe room, which for many of them became death rooms. And you may say to yourself, why would you not have a lock on your safe room? And it was the question that I asked. He said, because these rooms were designed to keep us safe from bombs that were exploding and shrapnel. And you didn't lock them on purpose, because if your home did get hit, then others would need to come in and drag you out, hopefully to safety, to try to save your life. The room was only created to help protect you from a bomb that came in constantly from the terrorist organization Hamas, that is backed by Iran. And so the majority of people in these kibbutz did not have a simple latch to keep that door shut. One of the men that was one of the survivors was shot, and he was saving his family's life. And he was sitting beside the door, having to hold the door shut, as on the other side of the door, the terrorists are trying to kill him. There were many family members that were killed, that were holding the door shut from the terrorists on the other side, and eventually they just used their machine guns to just put constant bullets through the door, and they would kill the family that was protecting the children. And then in many scenarios, they would just set the house on fire and burn the children alive. I want you to think about what I just said. Imagine your neighborhood, every house being invaded, systematically door to door. You're either drug out to the street and killed. You try to fight back against hundreds of invaders, which you're not going to win, or you're burned alive and your children are burned alive, or you're taken hostage. That is all because they were Jewish. Walking through this kibbutz, looking at the pictures that were put at the front of each house of who lived in that house, it was heartbreak. Seeing how the place had been, in essence, left exactly how it was on that day. Seeing the bicycles leaning up against the homes. Seeing the tricycles that were pushed over outside the front door where you would leave most outside toys. Seeing the basketball goals and the basketballs that had not moved since the day these people were slaughtered. And going into the homes and seeing where these people took their last breaths, where they lost their lives, and knowing what they must have felt looking at the bullet holes coming through the doors of their safe rooms that were supposed to keep them safe from bombs. And the kibbutz that I went into, the worst part about it was that nobody came to save them from the military. They're the one kibbutz where the military didn't show up. Now, you may ask yourself why, and it was a question I did, like, how is that even possible? And what I found out from going to a military base that was also overrun, and the girls there went to their safe room that was 6 a.m. There was 30 to 40 girls who were serving in their military, and only 4 of them were armed because they were woken up by the attack, and they were overrun by terrorists on their base. They didn't have time to get into their uniforms or even grab their guns, so there was only 4 of them that were armed. And they were huddled down and they were hiding, trying to save their lives on their own military base, something they could have never imagined was going to happen. And many of their commanders had already been killed outside trying to defend the base. They were being overrun. And so what I learned was the majority of people that were higher up in the military in Israel were killed in the first hour of the attack. And so then chaos erupted because no one was giving orders anymore because everyone that had the ability to give orders had died. Now, something that's interesting about Israel is a little bit different than our military is the commanders are always the highest ranked at the front leading the charge. They do not stay back to give orders. And so the entire seniority of the military in Israel was just decimated during this attack. So some of the military that was trying to respond to this kibbutz took fire before they could even get close to it from another conflict and other warriors that invaded the country. It wasn't that they didn't try to come, it's because they literally couldn't because they were then under attack and engaged the terrorists, and many of them were dying as well. But what I witnessed on the military base was so horrific because the military command center where the girls were inside trying to get help and talking and explain that they were under attack and then the base had been infiltrated, the people they were talking to had already been killed outside of the base. And what the terrorists did is they burned them alive. One of the young girls that did survive the attack talked to me about her 2 friends that were found clinging to one another as they burned alive in the military command center. She also told the story of how when the terrorists found the young soldiers, they're 18 years old girls, in the shelter, they started to grin and started to chant, Allah Akbar, because they knew that they had found them and then they could massacre them. They then turned their guns on these girls all in the shelter and just started executing them. The 4 girls that had guns shot back. They then retreated a little bit and then started to throw in hand grenades to blow them up. The majority of these girls were in their pajamas. Why were they being killed? Because of one reason: they were Jewish. They were Jewish. They then went room to room on the base, and they separate the bases with women bases and men bases in the military. And women serve in the military. Everybody in Israel that's a citizen, in essence, serves 2 years in the military. It's truly incredible. And they would find girls, and they would take them out. They would then rape them. The other girls that were hiding could hear the rapes happening, and then they would hear the gunshots. After they'd raped the girl, they would then shoot the girls and kill them and leave them outside of their rooms dead. And this happened for hours. It's no different than what happened at the festival where I also went and met with a survivor. A man, a young boy in his upper teens who went with 10 of his friends, and only, I think he said, 3 of them survived. Why were they killed going to a music festival? Because they were Jewish. They were killed by Hamas because Hamas wants to kill and exterminate every Jew from the river to the sea. They were in the middle of basically nowhere at this music festival, a beautiful area with trees. They were there to dance and celebrate with their friends. They were at a music festival to love one another and to enjoy a great day of music. And he said that when the red alert went off, which if you're Israeli, you have on your phone, they thought it was just going to be bombs that happened. Many people went to run to safety, to some of the bomb shelters. And that ended up being where they were slaughtered. Because as soon as the terrorists got there, they would just go in and they would open the door and they would throw a grenade or they would just slaughter them. There was also nowhere to really hide. I want you to understand this. The trees at the festival are very skinny. They remind me of like a small branch tree in America. There's not a big trunk like oaks or larger trees. These are like crepe myrtles is the best way I can describe it. There's no protection there. And you have people that are paratrooping in. You have people arriving in cars. You have people arriving on motorcycles, and they're just mowing you down. You look at the hundreds and hundreds of pictures, and I put some of this on social media. They were slaughtered. They're almost all young. They were all there with their friends, and there was nowhere to hide. There was the famous bar that was there where you could go and buy a drink at like any music festival. You know what they look like. They're kind of square. They've got a little fence. You go in, you get something to drink, you go back to the concert. It was the prime place where people would think to go for shelter. And when the jihadists got there, when Hamas got there, they looked at the people hiding, holding each other, and they just mowed them down for sport while they were chanting and smiling because they knew they were going to get to kill so many Jews, and the plan worked. I am going to have more to say on this in the future, but what I can tell you is this is evil at a level that the only way I can describe it is satanic. I am so sad for the people that lost their lives. I now know their faces. I now know their stories. I hope to continue to tell them to you. But whether it's the kids that were killed playing soccer, whether it's the kids going to a music festival, whether it's the 9-month-old child who's taken hostage for propaganda from Hamas, and the mother and the 2 small children who couldn't defend themselves were killed. Whether it was the older men that were in their 80s and 90s that couldn't even get out of their houses that were burned alive for sport, or the girls on the bases that were burned alive for sport on the military base, or were raped in front of their friends and then shot 4 times in the back. What I can tell you is the entire country of Israel is the enemy of the state, and these attacks came from Gaza. How would you live next to people that plan and do this and celebrate this? Remember, they were calling home. We have the audio and the text messages of them calling home, going, Dad, Mom, telling their parents, I killed a Jew, I killed a Jew. And the dad and the parents are telling the child how proud they are. They just went to kill a random Jew. This is my generation's Holocaust, and it's being whitewashed. And the scary part is the rise of anti-Semitism in the U.S. has skyrocketed as well. Israel is our ally for a reason. We can debate if they get it all right. And by the way, the police officers that I met with who were overrun, who were also killed, who told their story, said that Israel doesn't always get it right. In fact, they have lots of criticism of their government for how wrong they got it on the October 7th surprise, and how there was major failures in their government to not know this was going to happen. But I have met so many brave men and women, citizens, who put on a uniform and have fought to defend their country for the last 2 years and live in a constant state of alertness where sirens going off and bombs going off is normal. And to see what they live, how they live, is truly remarkable, because they want to be safe as Jews, and this is the only place in the Middle East where they feel like they can be safe. God bless them. I'll keep their stories alive. I'll tell you more stories moving forward. We'll get back to the biggest stories coming out of the White House and politics in America, but this was important for me to take a moment and just tell you what I saw.
Thank you for listening to the 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson. Please make sure you hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. And for more in-depth news, also subscribe to the Ben Ferguson podcast, and we will see you back here tomorrow.
This is an iHeart podcast.